It's time to start imagining a post-police world. Why abolishing the police is not a crazy idea. Abolishing American police might be our only hope to reform police brutality, violence, and skyrocketing incarceration rate. By Claire Burnish, August 25, 2017. Are police necessary? Although this existential question often produces a knee-jerk "of course they are, who would protect us," a growing call for the abolition of police and working examples to back it up deserves more than scornful dismissal, particularly amid epidemic-level violence by agents of the state. Police are under no obligation to protect the public. They putatively serve. A series of state and Supreme Court decisions stretching back more than 3 decades indisputably establish this fact, so the lingering question, who will protect us, is of no consequence to the case for dismantling every police department in the nation. On the contrary, police kill, maim, intimidate, harass, and generally brutalize the citizenry with alarming frequency and rarely face consequences beyond a paid vacation, farcically termed administrative leave, for doing so. Rather than fight and solve violent crimes, police act as little more than heavily militarized code enforcers, or as David Graeber of the London School of Economics aptly terms, bureaucrats with weapons protecting us from broken tail lights, missing front license plates, and imperfect lane changes more often than from robbery, homicide, and rape. Give police the equipment and weapons of war under the premise of fighting terrorism, when terrorism is all but non-existent, and predictably, they will go to war. As Abraham Maslow posited in 1966 in a concept known as the law of the instrument, I suppose it is tempting, if the only tool you have is a hammer, to treat everything as if it were a nail. We, the citizenry, are not nails to be forcibly and violently coerced into submission over the tiniest of nonviolent and inconsequential infractions, but, whether or not we're inclined to admit as much, that summarizes our current situation in the eyes of an overbearing state and its criminalization of, in essence, daily life. How this police state cinched a noose-like grip on the nation, at this late date, arguably matters little in deference to the urgency it must be addressed. And while solutions run the gamut from individual officer liability insurance to the use of body cameras, forcing an on-call policy akin to that of fire departments to an overhaul of training policies, as it becomes apparent nothing will be done, the larger aforementioned existential question must come into play. Are police a necessary element in an ordered, peaceful society? In short, the answer is no, absolutely not, largely because police spend such little time policing anything other than ridiculous laws created solely for the purpose of revenue generation to justify their own existence. Advertisement. Graeber writes, "The police spend very little of their time dealing with violent criminals. Indeed, police sociologists report that only about 10% of the average police officer's time is devoted to criminal matters of any kind. Most of the remaining 90% is spent dealing with infractions of various administrative codes and regulations, all those rules about how and where one can eat, drink, smoke, sell, sit, walk, and drive. If 2 people punch each other, or even draw a knife on each other, police are unlikely to get involved. Drive down the street in a car without license plates, on the other hand, and the authorities will show up instantly, threatening all sorts of dire consequences if you don't do exactly what they tell you. The police, then, are essentially just bureaucrats with weapons. Their main role in society is to bring the threat of physical force, even death, into situations where it never would have been otherwise invoked, such as the enforcement of civic ordinances about the sale of untaxed cigarettes. Read more. 11 arrested, $30,000 in cash confiscated from heroic raids on ginseng farmers. This overcriminalization of, well, living, has exploded prison populations and adversarial policing to a profoundly negative effect. In the beginning of 2015, the number of federal criminal laws exceeded 4,500 over 27,000 pages of United States federal code, with Congress creating crimes where none previously existed at a rate of 50 new criminal laws each year. And that only covers federal law. Add state and local criminal codes and it's estimated the average American unknowingly commits 3 felonies every day. According to the National Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers, our nation's addiction to criminalization backlogs our judiciary, overflows our prisons, and forces innocent individuals to plead guilty not because they actually are, but because exercising their constitutional right to a trial is prohibitively expensive and too much of a risk. These purported crimes, however, largely have nothing at all to do with true harm committed against another, though brutal responses by police and filled beyond capacity prisons would have you thinking otherwise. With just 5% of the world's population, the US incarcerates no less than 25% of the world's prisoners. This stunning surplus of criminal law, coupled with the government's military equipment giveaway to law enforcement departments which have little need for it, has put the populace in the altogether dangerous position of being 58 times more likely to be killed by an officer of the law than by a terrorist. Once an individual has a criminal record, possible future interactions with police become a risky endeavor. Indeed, it already doesn't take evidence of wrongdoing to put an officer on guard, but a criminal blip on someone's record during an otherwise routine traffic stop creates wholly unnecessary tension where none should exist. Especially if that crime was collecting rainwater, living off-grid, keeping rabbits in the backyard, or any of the untold number of patently absurd behaviors now deemed verboten by the state. And the scope of this article won't even touch on the untold tragedies fueled by the failed war on drugs. Loosely in line with the law of the instrument, citizens have become opportunities for revenue generation, as police patrol the streets searching for anyone stepping out of line with some misbegotten code. We are little more than adversarial dollar signs to these roving bands of armed enforcers of extraneous laws, targets to be plundered and pillaged, harassed and shaken down, to generate revenue and therefore justify the continuation of big government. In the absence of policing, justice, prison, and criminal code reform, several viable options present themselves for consideration, perhaps most imperatively among them, the complete abolishment of police. To posit the populace would devolve into chaos and violence without police departments ignores the chaos and violence wrought by police, not to mention the very real historical proof a correctly and fully functioning society can and will police itself. First, consider the sizable financial feedback loop perpetuated by an excessively intrusive nanny state and its armed agents of enforcement. Taxpayers shoulder the cost of disproportionately large police forces, which crack down on petty criminals instead of preventing murders, rapes, and significant property crimes. Then taxpayers fund overburdened public defenders and backlogged courts, prisons, probation officers, and legislators in their effort to criminalize yet more ridiculously innocuous behaviors. It's never ending. It's unsustainable. And it's not going to fix itself, not in ways significant enough to warrant further discussion. Read more. Video refutes cops' lies, shows them tase and beat innocent firefighter for no reason. As of 2011, according to a 2013 study by the Associate Dean of Eastern Kentucky University's School of Justice Studies, Victor E. Capeller, a mere 2 of 14 arrests were for violent or property crimes. If police truly existed to fight actual crime, not the overwhelmingly excessive number of crimes created by lawmakers, departments would be slashed in staff dramatically. Capeller writes, "If we take all the violent crimes reported to the police in 2011, we find that there were 1,203,564 violent crimes, FBI, 2012. Since more than 885,000 people worked as sworn officers in that same year, BJS 2012, there were 1.36 violent crimes reported for every police officer employed in the U.S. If crime were dispersed evenly across the nation's police, then this would mean that in 2011 each police officer would have been responsible for investigating just over a single violent crime. And since we know that a relatively small number of criminals are responsible for the vast majority of crime in a society, each cop would be responsible for even fewer criminals." After the hotly controversial deaths by police of Michael Brown and Eric Garner in 2014, the call for police reform intensified exponentially. While undoubtedly well-intentioned in motive, years of begging nicely for the broken system to fix itself have, as to be expected, fallen on deaf ears. Abolishing police entirely might reek of radicalism to a nation cowed by constant government fear propaganda, but considering how little violence is present in our current society compared to just decades ago, examples already in place prove the concept has teeth. Trained and unarmed intervention teams consisting of civilians, often former violent offenders, themselves can and do defuse potentially violent conflicts in their own neighborhoods in major cities from Los Angeles to Detroit, as noted by Rolling Stone. Indeed, conflict resolution as a community program has effectively prevented criminal activity, improved neighborhood relations, reduced gang violence, and resolved without the involvement of police or courts crimes which have already occurred. Ethan Ucker, co-founder of Circles and Ciphers, a leadership training, a conflict resolution program for young men who've been in prison, jail, or a gang, which began in Chicago, facilitates peace circles. Though peace circles will likely evoke images of stoned hippies around a campfire for many, the concept has done the extraordinary in a community once awash in violence and gang activity. In just one anecdotal example Ucker offered to the Chicago Reader recently. There was a robbery at this store in the community. One of the people at the store whose stuff was taken said, "Look, I don't want to call the cops. Is there anything we can do?" They found on Facebook that this young person was selling their stuff, and that young person happened to go to a school where we'd done some circles, so I knew a teacher at the school and could say, "Hey, this is where we're at." Eventually, robber and robbed were brought together in an attempt to resolve the wrongdoing. That young person ended up returning what he had that hadn't been sold, and then working at the shop in restitution for everything else. Then it turned out he really liked working there, and after this agreement was over, he continued to go there and volunteer. There was a relationship built there. Read more. Video: cops force canine to maul innocent man after asking them to stay out of his yard. That relationship among community members can act as a compelling deterrent against crime. The better one knows a neighbor, the less likely they are to rob or victimize them. This cannot be said of police in 2017, as officers often don't live in the neighborhoods they police, which creates a degree of separation and personal investment from the ultimate outcome of any interaction, decreasing the hesitation to act violently in an encounter that wouldn't ordinarily call for the use of force. In some manifestations, this community solution subverting the need to involve police and the court system is termed reparative or transformative justice, about which Jose Martin writes for Rolling Stone has appeared in cities across the U.S., like Philadelphia's experiment with community courts. Spaces are created where accountability is understood as a community issue, and the entire community, along with the so-called perpetrator and the victim of a given offense, try to restore and even transform everyone in the process. Putting the community back in community policing while abolishing police as armed agents for revenue generation can effect sweeping changes to an increasingly polarized and distanced society. Rather than the financial feedback loop apparent in our injustice system presently, defunding police loosens taxpayer dollars to reinstate mental health and addiction programs, two conditions of which often drive actual violent crime among many other effective solutions. When our rights have been pawned away by a money-hungry system, the only means left to reclaim those rights stands in wresting excessive power from those who would misuse and abuse it, in often brutal ways. Police aren't serving the people who pay their salaries and are under no obligation to do so, but if they aren't solving crimes or protecting the citizenry, whose purposes do they serve? As Greber, writing after the Department of Justice published a scathing report on systemic racism and excessive fines as pattern and practice in Ferguson, Missouri, continues, in recent decades, local governments have become deeply indebted to large, private financial institutions, many of the same ones that brought us the crash of 2008. In Ferguson, for instance, the amount of revenue collected from fines corresponds almost exactly to that shelled out to service municipal debt. Increasingly, cities find themselves in the business of arresting citizens in order to pay creditors. Ferguson is, of course, far from an isolated example. One wonders if those who unfalteringly defend the violent police state would as adamantly stand behind them if police were more accurately portrayed as state-sponsored, armed thugs for big banks and corporate America. Notice none of these arguments for abolishing police criticize officers as individuals except for an obviously growing number of bad apples. Many officers chose policing as an occupation with protecting and serving in mind. But that arguably laudable goal is a vapid remnant of what has become policing for profit at the expense of communities nationwide. And unless an altogether unlikely revamping of overcriminalization takes place soon, officers serve no one but state and corporate interests. Thus those who argue police put their lives on the line miss that they do so at the behest of the system oppressing us all to meet its financial goals. No perfect solution for police violence exists, and in the absence of wholesale reform, abolishing American police might be our only realistic and suitable solution.
Hey, Sheriff, we have a question about why your office, your intelligence division, is investigating private citizens for criminal investigation that happen to be activists that are overseeing your department. Why would you have your intelligence division investigate private citizens? We have done...
for life hating so much.
Sir, we don't hate anyone. We love freedom and we love American people. And government is out of control. That's why you're seeing such a revolt nationwide. Why can't you just answer, why is Susan Edwards, your intelligence division, investigating private citizens? This should not happen.
Are you here to apply for a job?
Possibly I might be applying for a job, but that's irrelevant to my question. Why would you ask that question?
Well, enjoy the fair.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Excuse you?
Excuse me, sir.
So those of you that haven't
Wow.
been on a bike before, we're
Sheriff's getting a little too pushy. You work for us, Sheriff. Just keep that in mind. At one time we respected you, but not with that type of attitude.
Hey Charlotte County, this is Charlotte County COPWATCH, and I found that I had to make a change this ending on my videos, letting you know about the channel and fair use laws, you know, how we can report on other people's reporting and how it's good, how it's bad, etc. But you guys can look it up yourself. It is legal. It's in there. But like I've told you before, that I've been cut off from making money on YouTube for 4 years. It's really weird, bizarre, but they cut the money off, but they said you can keep the channel, and now YouTube makes all the money. And if you get bored, plug it into Social Blade website, and you'll see that they are making a huge amount off the site. Right now it's at 63 million views, 53,000 subscribers, almost 3 million views a month. You know, trying to wake people up, and I make nothing. In fact, I got a customer that's ex-congressman. He said if I could ever find a lawyer, sue YouTube on it. But because this is nuts. 4 hours a day, and to save America. You know, but at the same time, it's worth it. Look at what our founding fathers did. They died for this country. So, but getting back to the money part, this is why I'm redoing the video. Is my dream of everyone giving $1, and it's going to be $53,000 a year, or if they did Patreon, which you know, can be monthly. That is not working. That'd be great if it did. Nothing is perfect. And I appreciate the people that do donate, you know, what they can on PayPal. And there again, I'm letting you guys know that is not much. Is, you know, monthly is, oh my god. So anyways, yes, you cannot live on it. It's very, very, very low amount. But the dollar things, I do appreciate that. But when I first said everybody give $1, that's not working. I'm just I'm just letting you guys know it's, yeah, that's that dream. Everybody gives $1. 53,000 subscribers, it's not working. So yes, if you can give more than that, you know, I appreciate it. Like I said, you know, I'm in a unique situation where, you know what, we're already debt free, and I'm not rich, but with the little business that we have, I am able to do what I am able to do 45 hours a day, you know, letting you guys know what's going on. In 4 years, I've did the whole thing myself. 12,000 videos on there. I literally get emails where people are like, holy crap, I never knew it was this bad. And it is this bad, and it's getting worse every day because we have the internet, we have cell phones, we have cameras everywhere now, and it's just disgusting what's going on. And then, as you guys know too, now we got Trump, we got Jeff Sessions doing a war on drugs, and now he wants to go after the forfeiture laws again. It's just unfreaking real. So if you can give more than that dream of everybody giving $1, yeah, that old video, that's not working. They're not, they're just not. So anyways, if you can give more than that dream is not working. Hardly anybody is giving. There you go. So that's why I'm remaking the video. If you can give more than that, that would be great. And there again, like I said, the Patreon's there. There is some people on there that are starting to give, but there again, it's very, very low. And like I said, I don't want to get rich off of that. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing because, you know, it's still so stinking corrupt. It's not even funny. My court case that I'm going to be paying out of my pocket myself with Charlotte County's coming up. They illegally looked me up and then posted all my information on LEOAFFAIRS website. They basically doxed me, however you want to say that. I forget what the word is. And they outed me, man. And that information on that site went out to 500 sheriffs, deputies, people that work at the jail, etc., etc., etc. So, yeah, it is very, very scary, but we're going to do a federal case, 1983 case, violating freedom of speech. We have 17 cameras in the house now. We got 2 cameras in the car. I always carry a camera plus a cell phone. A lot of people are highly recommending I get a vest now. If I could, if the wife would let me, I would run for sheriff. We are trying to push the thing nationwide right now, where just to mix it up and to get the topics out there is register to run for sheriff, NPA, no party affiliation, as a write-in, and that is completely free, and you can participate in the elections. And there's a lot of stuff. We got a guy, James McLinnis in Pinellas County, Tampa, who almost won. He experienced the corruption himself. The story is unbelievable. Look him up. It's mind-blowing what they did. It pissed him off. He is very, very smart. He has way more money than I did. He ran for sheriff at the last 3 months last year in 2016 and almost won. He got all of the black vote. And the reason why he did that is because he ran in, I will not bust, we're in Florida, I will not bust anybody for weed anymore unless it's an ungodly huge amount, like pounds. And then he also ran in no more victimless crimes, no more of this freaking road pirate bull crap. And then he was going to cut the budget by 30%. And when you think about that, you can. If you stop the road pirates, you can get rid of a bunch of people. Gone. So, the wife has been saying, yes, I can, yes, I can't. So I don't know. We're trying to find somebody that can do it because I am busy doing this anyways. But, so I'm making a video, like I said, that $1 a month from everybody, you know, for 53,000 subscribers, that is not working. I'm just letting you guys know. Absolutely give way more than $1 a month. If you can, I appreciate anything. By the way, remember too, when you give that, PayPal takes like freaking 15 to 20%, so it's even worse than that. But, and there again, like I'm letting you guys know, it's way, what I get is very, very low. Appreciate it, but it is very, very low. Can't live on it. I'm just, you know, I'm working, and that's what I'm working on. And that court case is going to cost a buttload of money. That's federal court. Just the filing fees and the depositions that we're going to be doing with this corrupt cop. So there's another reason to give. We are going to be doing a deposition with this very corrupt. He was in a drug squad. He is a bad guy. He's on steroids. We heard steroids are rampant here. That's why their attitude is so bad. And we are going to get him on video, and it will be on YouTube. So that case alone is $5,000 just to bring it to court, and that's my money out of my pocket. So there's another reason to give, and give way more than $1 if you can. So keep that in mind. This is the new video, and I see, God, I talk a lot. It's already 7 minutes, but had to make it just to let you know that $1 a month from everybody is not working. They're not doing it. So if you can give more than that, please. So thanks. Keep it up. Share, like, subscribe, tell your friends, send me your videos on corruption, and I'll post it.